I'm first going to tell you about the mic situation. So that you're not confused by students doing different things here. So the mic we have works.
If you do this,
And so students, if
you are comfortable doing that, that's great, but
not, project.
to Bailey back there. So, we'll see how that goes.
Can you hear me without the mic?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. All right. So, if you don't know me, I'm Sandra Meek. I am the creative writing coordinator and curriculum lead at Berry. And this is the 25th annual senior meeting. So every year, except for COVID, we had it virtual. So we have been here, I take that back. There was a year there was a tornado. We had to do it in a different building. We still do that. COVID didn't stop it, the tornado didn't stop it. So this is an event that's been very special to us. So 25 years of amazing students graduating and are getting to have this chance to celebrate their work. And this is especially special to me because I think back of doing this the first time, creating this 25 years ago, and this will likely be my last year as coordinator. Definitely, I don't know why I'm talking to this. No, that doesn't do it. But next year, Dr. Peters will be the creative writing coordinator and will be master of all. But we also have a fabulous new fiction professor coming in the fall, Dr. Sam Edmonds. Really incredible. So it's going to be an exciting year for y'all. We're still competing. And for those of you who won't, it'll be even more exciting. You have to let us know how it goes. All right, so each of our students provided us with a short bio. And so Dr. Peters and I will read those bios before each student comes to read their work. And we will just follow the order of the chapter. So our first reader is Arielle Fischer. Arielle came to Berry with a head full of stories and a profound hatred for writing them down. Other than the deep, dark caverns of her notes app, she rarely put any of her ideas onto paper. That is, until her father told her to give a creative writing major a try. Arielle didn't expect it to stick, nor did she expect nonfiction to not only fascinate her, but help her process trauma she'd ignored for years. Writing opened her eyes to the world, the communities around her, and most importantly, herself. Her ambitions also led her to pursue other paths in communications and arts, both in which she minored in. Unless she is hired before graduation, big yikes. Arielle said that. Arielle will fulfill her acceptance into the Disney College program in Orlando, Florida until the new year, along with continuing her apprenticeship as an associate editor of Texas Tech University's Iron Horse Literary Review magazine.
Thank you guys for coming out. I thank all of us here when I say that we really appreciate all of you being here and supporting our hard work that we've put together all these years. So I am actually going to do the pieces from the chapbook, but in a different order. I will be starting with my third piece called Matriarch. This is a poem I wrote about my grandmother. Matriarch, written in the style of Sylvia Plath's Daddy. Why did you have to leave so soon? It left my heart cold black midnight blue, made its heartbeats blur as if held with glue. Didn't even say adieu, just faded into nothing. You kept me bleak and beaten. How very rude, rude. You left, and all my voice could cry was to ask why you made me cry. I was so young. I didn't understand why you let salty stains streak from my eye. Death, I believed even you could defy, but instead, you died, died, died. You left with no farewell, no remorse. You left with no apology for all the burdens you left upon our door, all the promises now buried under our floor, their voices still a dull, toying roar, hungry for the saint I knew you never were before. Why did you have to hurt her? She, your only daughter, she acts too much like you, I've heard. All the hollers and the lies and the scorns with slurs. Never found a good way to be a mother. Like you, she never keeps her word. Grandmother, why did you have to hate? My mother now does not appreciate all that I am. To her, I will never be greater than an empty-headed, lost cause ache. But perhaps the pain that I feel was fate, since both your loves were fake, 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 fake. Why did you refuse to love? Maybe it was your generation. They thought they were above that thing you never gave. No push, no shove. That void in your chest, no doting hands inside those empty gloves. Now I weep and hate because you couldn't discover how to love, 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 love her. The second piece that I'm going to read is an excerpt from a much longer piece called Coffee, the Blood of Christ. I wrote this for my advanced nonfiction class my junior year, where the prompt was basically we had to form a relationship with a community partner that we didn't know, and I chose the Sharp Sickle Coffee House on Broad Street, which is a Christian-based coffee house type situation. And for better or for worse, it taught me a lot about myself, and it unveiled a lot of feelings that I had been burying for quite a long time, and this work really helped me to understand and interpret those feelings. So this is my excerpt from Coffee, the Blood of Christ. As I turned, a hand slammed onto the counter. Hey, if it's no problem to you, I just wanted to ask you something. The man we'll call Adam spurted in a hushed yet condescending tone. My ankles swiveled back around as my eyes fell into his gaze. No, they were trapped by his gaze. His fierce, crystal gray irises stared into my skull, wrapping a lasso around my attention and pulling it tight. I felt like a butterfly with wings pinned inside a glass box, and he, my capturer, observing a helpless specimen. He had what Southern preachers call Jesus eyes. Eyes full of the Holy Spirit or a holy delusion. Sure, I whimpered, unable to look away. See, the Lord speaks to me, and he wouldn't tell me to speak to you unless there was something important. By any chance, do you suffer with anxiety or depression, mental illnesses? I was completely unprepared for this impromptu therapy session. Awestruck by the audacity of a stranger to question my clinical illnesses, I carefully told him the abridged truth. Sometimes, some days are better than others. Do you know Jesus? Have you struggled to know him in the past? He asked. Still pinned by his gaze and utterly shocked by his forwardness, I found myself piecing together my life story in fragments of phonetics and nods. Yes, I sputtered. I have, in the past, with trusting him and doubt. Well, I just want you to know that Jesus died for you, and he loves you so much. He'll be there for you no matter what you're going through. You just need to pray and put your full faith and trust in him. He will wash away all of your worries and troubles. I hope you have a blessed day, and we're all praying for you back here. He did not break eye contact once. I would later discover he spoke in tongues during worship. Adam finally busied himself with the espresso machine. Stunned, I stifled back a twisted expression and returned to visit Abby. She looked at me and chuckled. He said that exact same thing about every other person in here. She laughed. Chelsea chimed in. We practically have that speech memorized. Years ago, before I attended a tiny liberal arts college in Northwest Georgia, I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. I grew up confused about how the world could be made in 7 days, yet dinosaurs existed. I grew up conflicted about why there were no people of color in my church. I grew up believing I was born dirty and rotten and wicked, me, a child. I grew up believing Jesus could cleanse me, a child. I grew up believing I was made in God's image perfectly how I was intended to be. I grew up believing I was destined for hell unless I was good enough. Will I ever be good enough? I grew up believing I was created for a purpose in this world. No. I grew up believing Jesus was my only purpose. I grew up believing God gave us the gift of love, but certain kinds of love were wrong. I grew up believing obedience and submissiveness made a true woman of God, that pieces of fabric could be sinful. I grew up believing I had to marry and make many Christian babies because God gave me a womb. I grew up believing I was a bad person because I didn't read my Bible every day or say my prayers before bed. I grew up believing I was better than other people because I was a Christian. I grew up hating others out of love. Once I attended a church camp in Laguna Beach, Florida. On the last night, we held a massive worship service with all the other campers. The speaker, a young, tan man I can hardly picture now, told stories of his emotional battles with faith. By the end of the service, when we stood to raise our hands and sing, I turned around. People were sobbing, shaking, falling to their knees, pleading their faith out to the tin ceiling. The speaker said he could truly feel the Lord in this place, flowing through every one of our hearts. Perhaps every heart but one, because I didn't feel anything. I felt nothing. I squinted my eyes, searching for a feeling that didn't exist. No matter how hard I tried to see, to hear, to feel, I felt nothing. Sometimes I still feel nothing. In Matthew 18, verses 10 through 14, the Bible tells the parable of the lost sheep. Out of a flock of 100 sheep, one went missing, and God, the shepherd, leaves the remaining 99 to search for the lost animal. The story relays God's accessibility to all, even those who sinned against him. It illustrates that God will never abandon his children and will find them in even their darkest moments. Sometimes I wonder if I was one of the 99, left behind so that God could go love another lonely animal. My final piece is actually a letter that I wrote to my baby cousin. For 21 years, I was the youngest person in my family until last year in January. We had the first baby in our family born for nearly 2 decades. So this is a letter I wrote to my baby cousin about life. A letter to my baby cousin about citruses. You'll learn this soon, but life is sour, so sometimes you have to suck a lemon, little girl. Suck a big, fat, juicy lemon that prickles your teeth and puckers your tongue and stings the cracks on your chapped bottom lip. Suck a lemon with seeds so bulky you'll choke if you swig too fast. Suck a lemon that bites you back. It'll burn, it'll fester, it'll slip and slide all the way down your throat and twist your stomach in sailor knots. You might even taste 100 by the time you're my age, maybe even 1,000. Life is sour, no matter how much sugar we sprinkle atop tear stains or icing we smother atop pickling bruises. The first taste is always the worst. Your cupid face and button nose will quench and shrivel. Your sea glass eyes will swell with salt water bubbling and bitter betrayal. That's what it's like. That's what it's like for a long while. And then you numb. The pricks and puckers prune away into slimy mush. Your skin grows thick as your tolerance grows placid. Life doesn't bite you back as hard anymore. But if you dream, you love, you hope, smile with the same creases those pricks and puckers gave you, the citrus may bloom sweet across your tongue, candy with the sap of your ever-evolving mind. You'll find sweetness in the sour, little girl. Perhaps you'll start to see lemons as your favorite fruit. Thank you so much.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Brianna Mitchell. Brianna Mitchell is a graduating senior. You guys, okay, no. Graduating senior with majors in creative writing and Spanish, who's from Athens, Georgia. She enjoys reading and writing, especially fantasy and adventure and historical fiction. Some of her other pastimes include baking, spending time outside, hanging out with friends, family, and her dog. She's a big fan of late night movies, me too, the beach, and finding God in the everyday. Please welcome Brianna Mitchell.
This first excerpt is from my final project in my class of writing about place, which is creative writing for 95. Pink swirls decorated the horizon, an orange tapestry woven around together with bits of cloud for a golden wall, inched itself upwards ever so slowly into daytime. Cascades of blue and deep green stretched on for miles on end, which helped to illuminate the occasional sweep of white. These colors rolled together and crashed onto the tan seashore, appearing more like acrylics on a streaky canvas. Foam fizzled at along its edges, and salt hung in the air as liquid as a handful of wet gray sand. Tiny imprints, memories of a wandering bird or a scuttling crustacean, pressed themselves into the shoreline, until a wave washed its lead in and another passed by 11 feet on the beach. Macy walked along these memories enough to know she both cut to shell here and there, gained a memento from each crevice and shouldered alongside the island in its early hours. A fisherman bobbed his head in acknowledgement. An elderly lady and a dog often smiles. She made her way back to her starting point and lowered herself onto her striped beach towel, carefully brushing off the powdery sand and dusting its edges. The sun was high enough in the sky. Now that it was clubbing, a blinding reflection appeared on the water. So Macy squinted and looked down at my hands, picking at the lily polish. This next piece is an excerpt from a piece of historical fiction I wrote in creative writing for year 2 in immediate fiction. And it says, she was still staring in the distance when the first firework exploded, making her jump out of her reverie to see the purple firework tumbling spray in the sky. People gathered in crowds, making their knees fuse and walls as this tiny yellow firecracker sizzled from the stars. Everyone turned their backs toward the bows, leaning out the silhouette of her and insisting the roar of fireworks spray in their enraptured faces. When the third pink firework cast a glaring haze over the palace grounds, illuminated in a bright rose-colored light, one window standing opposite and the other gasoline street at the house. Next I have a poem from creative writing for year 1, which is intermediate poetry, and it's about a person. It's a fictional story about a person who traveled to fictional locations and collects treasures from them. So it says, tired maps of encouragement in hand are the color of bamboo from his last travels. A golden bronze lantern cast careful colored light on his portrait. Glossy seashell spiders, soaked green bits of sand, plugged gingerly from the floor with this sit on the shelves of glass. Gold points bit of the glitter of the memory of El Dorado, moving together in a clear voice from the traveling groups as we up to. Closing the door to his dwelling, leaving behind his land precious possessions, journey or navigates the simple stars of his eyes. He's run the constellations, and then found a new one within the ship as well. He has no effect. And the last poem I have is also from creative writing for year 1 intermediate poetry, and it's called Nostalgia. And it says, snowflakes plummeting into my face, I'm burning a crystal glass cup. Precipitation from colored flows
Our next reader is Raegan Peluso. Raegan Peluso. Raegan is from Nashville, Tennessee, and she is graduating officially with a degree in creative writing, unofficially with a myriad of changing and never finished majors and minors, including communications, psychology, art, political science, English, and family studies. Raegan is passionate about all kinds of art, reading, writing, drawing, painting, and both videography and photography. But above all, she is passionate about spending time with and laughing with her friends and family. After graduation, Raegan hopes to find a job where she can be creative and be surrounded by kind people. If you have any leads.
The first 3 poems I'm reading are in the chapbook, but the rest are not. So I just wrote them and put them on the chapbook. Should I use this? Whatever you want.
It sounds good, but it's what you're comfortable with.
I'm pretty loud. Lethality test. Check yes or no. Is in hesitation, answer no. Yes, you slice me open. Yes, the blood flows freely. But you lick me up nice and close. No, you kiss. You hold me tight. In which box do I check my want? To be kept, swept, snuggled safely in agony. Deep down, do I wonder if this is how it's meant to be? We are of fruit, of tree, domesticated, obsolete. We, the gentler sex, salivate and satiate our trimmed, cultivated husband. We tame our tongues, our autonomy. We are pleased to please. We render our bodies not our own. Head down, check. Throw it out, check, check, check. Measured, mannered, gentle. We are not wild, we're tender. We're licked up nice and closed. I threw up all of my insides tonight. I perform an exercise of agility, sitting, stretching, sifting through my thoughts. What am I looking for? Squint. What do I crave? Salivate. I crave calm. I crave a ceasing, a pause, in the torment my body has been living in. It's fight, it's flight, it's trembling and excretion, all day, all night. I give out and up, throw up and out, my insides, my outsides. My body braves an impact, taking in the words thrown up and at my face. No, this body is not calm. This body is used to being used. This body walks in circles. It craves, but it destroys. Throws up, throws away. Day 1 of no contact. I am bleeding and my brain is muddy, hot, sopping sludge, and frozen, icy, unmoving sin. Sin of lack of clarity, disorientation. But I never forced myself on you. I never tactfully harmed you. But I confused you. I led you on this journey of cock-blocking, of dangling hope. Oh yes, my sin is as great as yours. I laugh at your tenuous twisting. When you turn the tables I sit on. When you call me disrespectful, detrimental, selfish, selfish, selfish. Oh Father, Teacher, all-knowing one, forgive me. For I have it easy now. For I have the privilege of your mind, your guts, your grueling generosity of spilling out your every thought and desire. Oh, I want to thank you for laying it all on the table, for suffocating me with overwhelm, for pushing and for pleading after all the no's, after all the asking to please stop. I am so grateful. Yes, my sin, greater than yours, serrates and slices and is silent. I'm jumping back and forth a lot, so I apologize, but now I'm going to be reading a few pieces from a larger project from writing about plays that Dr. King taught this semester about Rome, Italy. It's complicated. I've been here before and I know I'm going back. Into my mind's eye, the smile on my father's, his Piazza Navona peppercorn steak and red wine under red light. Back to this lake of sweat, no AC, no choice but to be bare in the heat. Rome in the summer, when locals leave and tourists migrate, duplicate, an outbreak of thousands. Like fish, weaving through the body of bodies with no water to breathe, just inhalation and cigarette air, and it smells good. Surely the weight of all who have stomped along these whited steps, where horses once galloped, where generations of people from all nations gathered, would flatten the cobblestone in its layers beneath. The streets still stick up, protrude, falter me in my sway, trip me and remind me this is not home. Though it was for a time, but it wasn't warm, it was winter, and then early spring. Yes, there was a radiator in my room, but the warmth didn't reach me in my bed in the corner, facing Trastevere. In the cold, there were not smiling eyes like my father's, but more mirroring my mother's. And don't tell my mother. Dark, desperate, clasping one by one at slippery necks as they broke. But there's freedom of movement and heart, too. There's glimmering joy in the Roman sun warming chilled skin, cappuccinos burning tired tongues, glorious greenery in the middle of Monteverde, green rose-ringed parakeets and Villa Sciarra. The bad is bad, but the good is beautiful and eternal, and I carry it with me even now, even here, in the smaller Rome, the 207 hills, even in the places I've called home that are not. I remember how he was too tired, too lazy, too mad to walk me home at night or early in the morning. A 7-minute walk. It's not that far, he'd say. He's taller than me, bigger than me, his legs taking the places quicker than me, and I'm a woman, and I'm alone, and I'm scared, and it's nighttime, and we're in the city, we're in Rome, and there's glass on the street, there's men in the corners, they jump at me, I scream, they laugh, there's gathering and groping and dark eyes, and it's nighttime. But he didn't care. He was tired. As I held myself close and stared straight ahead, I think a part of me wished the big bad man in the dark street would get me. My blood shed, my light further lost, my face on the Italian news. Then he'd see. It would be over, but at least he would see. Ephesians 4:26-27. I didn't write this one. You do all to be angry, but don't use your anger as fuel for revenge. And don't stay angry. Don't go to bed angry. Don't give the devil that kind of foothold in your life. And so we never went to sleep. We're deprived and delirious, but I will be damned to actual damnation if I ask to talk about this tomorrow, if I beg for him to leave. Feeling forced to leave just makes me want to stay, he says. But I haven't forced you, I say. First, I suggested. I hinted I was tired. I had us move to the couch by the door. I asked if I could go to bed. And now after suggesting, hinting, moving, asking, now I'm telling you firmly, not forcing, just feeling a little frantic. Feeling trapped in a space I'm supposed to feel safe. It's hard to believe there are 3 sleeping girls a room away because it's so quiet and the darkness is so harsh. And when I remember there are 3 sleeping girls a room away, I calmly explain that if he doesn't leave, I will go wake them. I've never threatened something like that before. He points out the threat, then I'm threatening him. That just because this is my apartment doesn't mean my want for him to go overrides his want to stay. Look at me. I glance up. I look back. Look at me. I hide my face. I close my eyes. My grandpa, the still alive and Italian one, thinks it's funny that I'm taking English classes in Italy. My eye doctor, I went for a visit before going abroad, asked me what I thought I was doing, moving to a country without knowing its language. At Elite, or Khanaja, 2 supermarkets below my apartment, I speak Italian as I check out. Ciao, carta, grazie. The woman who checks stares at me blankly and says, "Hello." Thank you. I learned in my English class, taught in Italy, that John Keats is buried here. In my English class, taught in Italy, I read Hemingway for the first time. I choose not to read the last chapter of A Farewell to Arms. I know what happens. Everyone knows from the start the doomed nature of Henry and Catherine's relationship. They're so desperate and so alone. I slam the book closed and let the final words hang mid-air. They limply sway and then pause, indefinitely frozen, asleep. I don't know how to let it end. Thank you very much.
Khanaja writes disturbing poetry and fiction for no other reason than to release the frustration and fury that she accumulates throughout her daily life. So thank you, poetry and fiction. As she becomes a healthier and happier person, she finds herself hating writing and wondering if she should have majored in fine. Since it's too late for that, she builds anger by reading and critiquing the writing of others. She finds joy in ripping freshman RHW papers, that's American writing, apart and leaving every client in tears and without hope for their future. She hopes to find herself in a career where she can continue the sadistic practice of editing. Please welcome Khanaja Scott.
I don't think I'll explain my poems. I think I was good. I think we know where we're going with this. This first poem is called Thalassophobia. Carpet wrapped and warped around the boy's toes. Carpet instead of arms he clung to with every aching limb. Wool fiber carpet that squished when he trudged in from the rain. Carpet that soaked up his blood was soaked with his blood. She was only a name, a mother. Felt like to save her son from the clutches of her husband. She warned the boy to be still as she licked him with Neosporin and kissed the gash that poured from her husband's fury like peroxide. It was almost a daughter, making soft pushes against the mother's womb. Cool jelly produced a blurry Polaroid picture that she ripped apart with cold fingers. It was cold that afternoon when she arrived home to find her son's cheek pressed flush against the white linoleum, smushed, pushed inward so that his lips dripped open and only gasps could escape. "I'm scared, Mom." He reached out, begging for her heart, not her hand. She turned her head and brushed her fingers lightly against her husband's palm. And once again, she chose to sever the umbilical for the not-so-sacred ritual of marred ivory and bells of the union. She dressed in 3 black layers to hide what was growing inside of her before she leaned into her son's casket, and the pastor cried about tragedy and God's plan and support for the loving family. Her husband did not weep, did not stand at the head of the son's body to see how the boy's head had caved in to mimic the shape of his boot. 1 week later in the afternoon, the husband discovered prenatal vitamins tucked neat into the laundry basket. Not neat like her son's pictures still taped to the inside of a suitcase she would never pack. Not neat like the purple splotches decorating her ribcage. Neat like a swaddle only a mother could have wrapped. Neat like her handwriting detailing in her own delicate words the vicious syllables her husband whispered with the cool blade nipping at her neck. Neat like her son's shoes lined up beside the entryway. Neat like the snow, the melting ice, the water she gulped down and swallowed through her nose. Girl of Solomon. I don't know why the world thinks that sex stinks. I would be honored to breathe us in forever. Our sweat, our wets, our skin inside and out of our bodies. Sea salt scented, our perfumed pheromones. Musk that's always the most concentrated at your cheek. Beneath its stubble, subtly sweetened when I lick down to your collarbones and just above the nape of your neck. The smell of future summers. Our limbs entangled and stiff with sand I would sink, drown, die happy in the sound of your sighs and moans. And who can ever question the existence of God once our love has been made and created no one short?
Versatility is a blessing. The climb, the pressing against this edge. We surrender all fear, become one and intimate. We break our bodies bare and our breast innocent. Our circle of incompetent contemporaries keep trying to push God out of sex, life out of sex, love out of sex. Power, the girls think, is found within their self-reliance, sufficiency, support, suicide. They forget love, accept hate, not simply overrun, but overtaken by this and that little fox grazing at the steady blossom, then bend, crimp, deformation extol at the invitation, introspection locked out and bodies let in because Satan, he rapes. He infiltrates the mind of the greedy who attempt to find satisfaction in this act that is nothing, that is hollow, without grace and intention. Alone, it is little more than an intrusion, an invasion of the body and plague in the spirit. While I don't mean to judge them or own them or love them like their lovers never could, and I don't mean to act as if I grasp something they have wholly misunderstood, but if their reflection in the mirror is little more than a whisper, a plea on his knees to find blossom in the nude, to hinder misuse, admit that discomfort is ironic since they have made this theatric stage a feigned pride in their lives and their want and their lust. They no longer blush, they giggle in public about privates, their sizes, their colors and infections. Fungus left untreated, untouched by the skin of pomegranate or frankincense. They are taught to suck only the venom from honeycomb. This ruddy boy at my feet, he is clean in this dark soil. He is rich in the scent of ripening grapes on vines. I feed him at least twice as he presses me harder, deeper into this pasture, sustenance to the ground and refreshment re-release against the oxygen. Don't let me up until the sun is shaded by raisins and figs. Lick them from my lips and tell me again this. We have awakened like bones and marrow from beyond the grave, an omnipresence of the sacred, of the virgin of our creation, a fable miscommunication, or something unable to be erased. This faith and lie as they might between strangers and favors and sips, the girls' blue lips on each unholy girl. Decay. Thank God I'm not pretty. Princess sits in the mirror, counting strands of pin, straight locks, and plucking brown hairs for hours on. End up in the same place as everyone else, rotting roof to gray gravel, slithering south, squeezing between no longer expensive toes, and wrapping in loops around your ankles like the diamond your darling promised you for the last 17 years of your precious, perfect. Life is lived through precocious, vicarious, unwed whoremother left stains in baby's lungs, and tears and breaths are always taken with hesitant regret. Let it be shown, whispered, vaguely understood, and then denied. The lame weaponry by which we confide delirious desires and convey discrepant delusions of candor and glamour, and waste all of our time on the forefront of operations. Because we either want to defend or be the pretty princess shoving glass shards into her gums whose only teeth remain in her sequin roll's gold grave, and only early death can save her from bright, highlighted, and deferential. The last two are not in the chapbook because, like everyone else, I'm in Dr. Meek's capstone course, and we've just written these. This one is called Disposed. Aromas, alcohol, antiseptic, artificially scented citrus, latex. Everything is too white, almost blue. I read a home of the West Georgia Medical Center. My soft feet against floors recently mopped with Clorox, and I know my way to the cafeteria like I know the questions they're asking my mom right now. Do you know what year it is? What's your name? Who is the president? She's rolling her eyes and she's making a snarky remark, and my cousin is yanking me into the elevator and asking, do you want to see where they put all the dead people? I bring my mom back a Sprite, even though she's not supposed to have them, but I won't reach into her bag for the Argo laundry starch. A 2013 article describes a 1967 Negro woman saying, it's just like dope. It continues to tell us that, to their astonishment, doctors have lately discovered that eating laundry starch is all the rage among Negro women. Some call it pica. She also craved ice. But some say it's just Negroes reverting back to their play-eating habits. But we never evolved too far from that, did we? Running with the bottoms of our bare feet black with dirt in the dark in the patch of dying grass to pinch the wings of lightning bugs and bake our mud pies in the moonlight. We scrub our heels and knees against granite and limestone and marble. Marble for the mayor buried here. His name taller than everyone else's, but more faded. He's faded from our memories, but he was important while he was alive. My mom is important now, will always be important, will never fade, as long as I smile, as long as I laugh, as long as I breathe. Our Sunday clothes were pressed fresh, hot, on the uncovered mattress where a bat slept unnoticed.
Argo representatives assure the public that their laundry detergent contains nothing but cornstarch, a common thickener for soups and desserts. They say the addiction is rare, they have no understanding of it. But my mom, she's pressing it into the denim, and she's sucking the rest off of her fingers. Healthcare professionals, not the ones snapping gloves over their manicures, say that the addiction could cause anemia, which would explain the eyes. But Negro women say it helps prevent nausea during pregnancy. My mom hasn't been pregnant since 1985, and how come she has to die before she gets planted into the earth? How come she must suck in with her final breath stale, sharp, soulless sanitation? And then the last one is also from the same project, and it's called Mute. It's an excerpt from a longer poem. In personality psych, we talk about accepting and forgiving mistakes. We talk about the discrepancy between our real and ideal selves. We talk in counseling about how I'm human, whether I want to be or not. My counselor says I need to cry, and I tell her that I can't. When I cry, I'm 9 years old. I'm in the backseat of a black 2011 GMC SUV, and everyone is laughing at me because I'm crying. And I'm 9 years old, and they're telling me what a baby I am because I am crying, that I want to go home. I want to be with my mom. I don't want to be here. Please take me home. I'm 9 years old, and the man I have never called my father is yanking me back by my hair, and he's telling me, don't you ever walk away from me when I'm talking to you. But he wasn't talking to me, and he's never talked to me, and all he ever does is yell at me, and I want to go home. But I'm 9 years old, and everyone is laughing at the way my collar has collected my tears. Whenever I cry, I want my mom, and I can't have my mom, so I can't cry. I close myself, instead, to the outside, and I let myself drown. It feels good to drown, to drink in all the liquids I won't let myself expel. I guess I'm a little bit petrified of opening my mouth, because when I talk, people get hurt. And when I talk, I get hurt. And when I talk, sometimes 20 years' worth of tears spill out, because at 9 I was told to act my age, which meant don't act your age, and don't act human, and be seen and not heard, and live afraid, and hide in silence, and just stay quiet.
Our next reader is Teems. Curry, the writing student extraordinaire, whose love for words is only matched by her ability to find the perfect procrastination excuse. Armed with a perpetually half-empty cup of coffee and a mountain of unread books, she navigates the treacherous waters of semicolons and plot holes with the grace of a golden retriever on a freshly polished floor. When she's not wrestling with her keyboard, you can find her staring contemplatively out the window, pondering the deep mysteries of the universe, or just internally debating whether cereal is a soup or a stew. Please welcome Teems.
Hello. I've got a few pieces. A couple of them are in the chapbook. The first two I'm going to read. The first one is an excerpt from a piece of fiction, which has, I don't know, I guess made me famous in the creative writing department, and it's created quite the inside joke. But I won't share, you won't know what it is, because I'm not getting to the end. So this is from Stella's Allure. It seems like a lifetime ago now, yet she continues to occupy my brain. She was a wonderful liar, and she appeared out of the blue, disappearing as suddenly as she came. Her name was Stella. Though professedly a short intermission to the rest of my life, she was a whirlwind of happenstance and the beginning and end of everything. I first met her on a bright fall day in Toronto. The wind gave the leaves purpose as they drifted past perfection, stepping on the train. I had no idea where it was going, but I knew I was destined to join. I hurried to the platform. Imagining its escape from my grasp seemed inconceivable. My body squeezed its way onto the train as it slipped on behind a large man in a bright red hat. Glancing around the cabin, my eyes landed urgently on the girl's fiery hair, simultaneously noticing an open seat directly across the aisle from the girl. Briskly, I made my way to the chair, my body molding to the form of my temporary spot. The dull green seat squeaked, as nervous as I was for the new presence. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw the girl reach into her putrid yellow faux leather purse and pull out a book. As I struggled to tell what book it was from my angle of view blue, I strained my neck to catch a glimpse. It had a color-blocked green and blue cover which read, "The Last Victim." Though an avid reader at the time, I had never heard of the novel. Naturally, I was intrigued. "What's that book you're reading?" I awkwardly shifted my weight in the seat, my feet unsure of what to do, so one hesitated before deciding to find its way over my right leg, making it easier to face the nameless girl. It took her a few seconds to register that my question was directed at her. Her eyes alone looked at me, patiently waiting for the head to follow, and I was met with green eyes unlike any I had ever seen. With that first glance, I took a hike through an intricate forest I found in her eyes, teeming with the life and passion of the rainforest. Passing by a tree frog perched on a low-hanging branch, a kaleidoscope of butterflies fluttered past my eyes, leaving me breathless. I vaguely heard her convey the title of the book to my inaccessible ears, and I had to cut my hike short for a quick return to the trailhead of the tree park. So this next one I have is from one of my classes, which was writing about community. And so I chose the rock climbing community because I'm cool and I rock climb. So I've got a lot of friends there, and so I decided to interview some people from various places in the rock climbing community, whether they preferred indoor or outdoor, and how long they had been in the community and that kind of stuff. And so I got some interesting things, but I have this little excerpt about an area that's popular in this area of climbing. So yeah, this is called "The Pioneers Have Left the Crag." The orb is a long V8 overhang to slough climb where the most significant risk is running out of energy. On our previous climbing trip, Cade, who is an intimidatingly great climber, with an overwhelmingly supportive attitude, day flashed the orb, which had previously been a years-long project boulder for him. He began the climb with no expectation to complete it, and miraculously he finished it in one burn. He mounted the top with a slap against the rock, shimmying his foot up as he screamed all the air out of his lungs in pure, raw excitement and adrenaline. The satisfaction of the completion was more intense in every ride because of the hundreds of hours across at least 2 years that he had put into that single boulder that came to fruition in this single moment. His breathing was heavy and a goofy smile spread like peanut butter across his face as he basked in the years of hard work paying off. The well-known orb area known for its namesake climb that Cade completed at Rocktown is now practically a dust bowl with limited vegetation and bare rocks protruding from the ground as if they were placed there to be climbed. Steve remembers the first time he saw the orb. Rhododendrons decorated the front, hiding the other two boulders and rendering them practically unclimbable. The entire pocket was filled with trees that were in full bloom in the off-season. 2 maple trees squatted in the middle of the bowl that people had to avoid during the crux moves on the orb. Steve said, quote, "Quick contrast here. It's all blank. There are no trees, there are no bushes, there aren't even signs that any of that was there," end quote. While it is common understanding in the ethics of outdoor climbing that cleaning the thick, bushy moss off the new boulders and pushing back what's necessary to establish a route is all accepted and expected. There is now increasing rates of raising areas to the ground. The difference now is the climbers that swing from branches to break them off perfectly healthy trees were raised in a time when community mentorship is practically impossible due to the exponential growth that Steve mentioned. Quote, "There was an education there, and there was enough of them to teach us and to keep that momentum going and to keep the feel of what happened in the boulder field," end quote, Steve explained. So what I have left is not in the chat book, so I'm sorry, you can't read along. I'm reading from also one of my courses with Dr. Pearl taking, and it's from a larger piece about my family and about the land that I grew up on, and so did so many other people in my family. And so it spans back quite a while, and so it means a lot to us. I'm reading a poem first, and then an excerpt from the longer nonfiction essay piece. So it's titled "Foundations Chronicle, but We're Still Here." Ma used the mule to plow and prep the garden for belted church hymns and tomato stalks, butter beans and peanuts. Decision-making Ma had this toughness about her, wringing chicken necks and tossing the heads. She always worked like a man. This was back when milk was still delivered, 4-quart glass bottles on the front porch, and Ma raised most food. And no name Route 3 Rome had no blacktop pavement, dusty roads in the dry summer wind, and muddy in the spring rains till late 60s. No house numbers till the 70s, gossipy neighbors listening in, only a click or a breath as a sign, 8-party line to a 4-party line to a private line for $1 extra a month. And dogs, cats, rabbits, horses, goats, peacocks, guineas. Donald went through phases. pulling clover for feed, those ginger black and white spotted bunnies, and that first big killing made other mama quit. And that old horse barn just holds tools and plywood now. Quilting bees in the wintertime, the Maddens had flew, but the Millers drinking cussed. They were the only ones, except sometimes Sissy and Cy would ride bikes all the way up to Silver Creek, a 5-mile winding summertime journey, stomping and eating maypops in the ditch, catching lightning bugs, and that spans generations. Like blackberry picking and wild strawberries and blueberry fields in Glen Hollow. And although they broke ground on July 18th for the white brick house that sits there now, the one 2 mamas lived in, Ma died on August 17th and never got to see it built. Never went to a doctor until 84, diagnosed with late-stage uterine cancer and sent home to die. In that back bedroom where she shared a double bed with her granddaughter, a single for the discarded grandson. But the summertime keeps rolling for those impromptu softball games with the neighborhood kids and white sheets on the pump house for drying peaches and apples out and A&E laws and I declares echoing down the well and that Coca-Cola that hit bottom with laughter in the car while people watching. But then Sissy died too. Heart attack falling on the daybed in the added room and addicts running rampant, stealing, hiding, and letting Ma's old house ruin. And the floors that Daddy put in are molding and the wisteria vines are creeping in through the holes in the foundation and we're just watching. Whoa. I never knew mama horses because they died before I was born. It's expected to not know my great-great-grandmother, and maybe even expected to not know my great-grandmother, but I was born with enough time to be able to have a relationship with 3 of my great-grandparents, one of which is still alive, and to me too. Even though I never met Sissy, I always felt connected to her in some way. My mama used to tell me this story about a moment when I was 2. I never knew a time when we didn't have a red cloth beaded framed picture of Sissy set up somewhere in the house. We still do. When I was just a toddler, I pointed at the picture and told my mama something. I know her, I said confidently. Well, sort of. That's Sissy. You know of her, but you never met her, Mama said in response to my outrageous claim. I know her, I repeated, with the kind of insistence that only a toddler can have. Kind of, baby, she continued, and she still can't remember exactly what she said to reason with the tiny me that I had, in fact, not met this person, despite my insistence. She picked me. With this claim, my mom was taken aback. She was surprised by this, but immediately thought, well, if Sissy were to pick anyone, it would be Curly. She loved little girls in the family that she could sew dresses for, which is why other mama went to school in the 1st grade with a new outfit every single day. And she loved the kind of curly blonde hair that I flaunted about in ringlets from the first strand that popped up in the middle of my head, alfalfa style. She was a creative person and would have loved that I'm drawing my creative passions now. She had a poem published in the newspaper called Rosebud. My mom had thought then, and still thinks now, that if Sissy were to pick anyone out of the lineup to be my mama's last child, it would be me. That sort of kinship doesn't fade. She died in 2000 and I was born in 2001. Donald was her husband. He had just left to go pick up some breakfast. He asked her if she wanted anything, and she said she wanted some bananas. Not long after, she died of a heart attack, probably fumbled to the daybed where she would sometimes take naps in the very back, added-on portion of that house. When Donald found her, legs hanging off the bed and face down, he called my mom all flustered because he couldn't wake her up. Mama knew. But she ran down to the house with my brother, Denver, who was just about 4 months old, in just a t-shirt, panties, and no shoes, just flying down there. She asked Donald if he had called 911. He said, no, should I? Yes, you need to, Mama said. He didn't know what to do. He was just frazzled, her lips were blue, and she didn't know what to do either, to try to do CPR or anything like that. Not that it would have mattered. Donald called the ambulance, though. He went outside with the cordless phone. He was looking down the road to tell them where to come, and Mama knew. She tossed Denver over on the bed next to Sissy, and normally he would have gone ballistic for Mama to have not been holding him, but he was just looking up at the ceiling, reaching his tiny fat hands up, playing with the air. So happy. Mama remembers thinking Sissy was just taking care of him while she fell apart.
Annsley is a graduating senior with majors in creative writing and communication. Like a classic student in the humanities, she enjoys reading books, particularly fantasy fiction ones, and hopes to write her own in the future. She also enjoys spending time with family, creating videos, writing fanfics, and going on adventures with loved ones. Please welcome Annsley.
Hi guys. So the pieces I'm reading today are not from the classroom and not from the chapbook either. But I have written a lot of pieces I love. For my creative writing classes, one of my great projects has been outside the classroom and a memoir that I wrote, just working through some really hard things that I've been through in college and just seeing the Lord show up in that. So I would love to share that with you today. So the first poem is titled Your Fault. If you don't have any friends, is it because of you? Maybe you tried too hard, or you didn't try enough. Maybe you didn't ask the right questions, or laugh at the right time. Maybe you're just too weird and exotic, different. It was all your fault because you were selfish. You tried, but it wasn't good enough. You tried to fix the broken once you didn't want to be mended. You tried to be honest, where honesty wasn't accepted. And you tried to love when all they wanted was an empty box. Secrets make you sick, and selfish little you only thought about yourself. Isn't that true? Where can you go now? No one loves you, you with that stupid optimistic smile and heart on your sleeve. You shouldn't leave it out there in the open because the wolves will smell it and start to play. It's all your fault, your stupid, pitiful fault. You tried to help? I don't care, nor do I believe you. Look where you are now, all alone, with nothing but scars on your back, hands wet with tears, and your heart on fire. This next piece is an excerpt from a short story called Evening. The lion was waiting for her at the base of the big willow tree she had left that morning, his tail swishing contentedly across the grass. She came up and sat beside him, and they enjoyed the silence. Her mind was too full for words. Eventually, though, she found a question pestering at her heartstrings. This was why you brought me here, wasn't it? She asked. Did they hurt? He asked. Huh? Did they hurt? Mom looked at the faint scars that graced her arm. Oh, she remarked, having forgotten all about them for most of the day. In fact, they hadn't hurt at all except for that one moment at the beginning. But soon after, they had all been forgotten, and she hadn't even noticed. The lion smiled at her stupor and nudged her with his nose. The scars will always be there, he said, but they won't always hurt. There's joy in the world, Mama. There's also suffering. People who groan in pain for and because of different things every day. It's up to you to choose what you do with your scars. Will you choose joy, or will you sit in that pain? Sometimes it's a hard choice with a simple solution. Sometimes leaving your bubble is all it takes for a little healing. Mollen's eyes welled up with tears again. She wasn't sure what to say and didn't quite understand what it meant. So, am I cured? Only time will tell, little one, but you have come a long way. Celebrate that. I am proud of you. It was the second time those words were said to her that day, and each time they felt vastly undeserving. She had done nothing but struggle and whine, done nothing but store anger and backtrack. There was so much ahead of her that there wasn't even a destination in sight, but she couldn't see the beginning of the road either because there was so much behind her. I don't know what to do next, she confessed. The lion chuckled. I don't expect you to. Just follow me. We'll take it one day at a time. She wanted to ask him what tomorrow would bring, if she would see those people again, if she'd be able to go back to that village, but she knew he wouldn't answer her. He could be so cryptic sometimes, and though it infuriated her, she reminded herself it was for the best. He hadn't let her down yet. I'd like to see them again, if you don't mind, Mullen wished as she rested her head in his paws. We'll see, was his only response. She sighed. She had a lot of questions buzzing around her head, so many that she was having trouble sorting them. She was able to ground herself on one thing, and that was the relief that there was a world outside of the bubble she had been stuck in. Suddenly, in a world that was so big, her phantom pains seemed much smaller. They were still there, but they were now finite compared to the other things on her heart. She decided the lion was right. Maybe she just needed some time. She sighed because she was not one for patience, but she relented to the wait anyways. Malin turned on her back, so she was looking up at his fuzzy chin. He seemed to feel her gaze on him when he looked down at her. She reached up and gently touched his cheek. You won't leave me, will you? Even if I mess it up again? I won't. Promise? Her voice was laced with doubt. His eyes were steady. I promise. She held his gaze, looking for a weakness or hint of lies, but she couldn't find any. Will you forgive me if I do? Mess it up again, I mean? Or if I get lost, will you forgive me then? I will. Promise. She leaned up and hugged him. I love you, she finally said before rolling over and closing her eyes. I love you too, little one.
did you feel so alone? I read the text on the laptop, but I already knew. There was a girl, a great lion, and a pile of daggers. Alone, broken, betrayed. Betrayed? He came too late. Tears, pain, embarrassment. Why can't I just be whole? Where was he? What? Where was he in that room? A beat, an image, silence. Anything coming to you? My imagination had always been wild. I was admonished for not sharing. What if I'm inventing it? What if you trust? What did you see? A man with dark curly hair, a crown. He was right behind me, standing behind the worn plush chair. He placed his hand on my shoulder. I dropped through. My throat tightened. What is he saying? I listened. I imagine I'm standing up. Here I am. Please talk to me. 3 words. I love you. I share. What else? There's more? I trust. I am for you, not against you. What else? He pushes my hair behind my ear. He leans forward as if to whisper something. From behind, his arms wrap around me. I'm always craving a hug. What else? I wait. I listen. Calm. Amber eyes meet mine. I find tears there. I wipe my own eyes and blow my nose. The spirit has been working here. I can't bring myself to speak. A notepad, a pen, a bona fide scribe. I smile as I remember what was not long ago. He gives me more. You can do this. I record with a smile. I got this. I will make you strong. I will help you overcome. I am with you. We cry, we hug, we pray. I give thanks. I banish the liars in Jesus' name. When he is for me, who can stand against me? Not curses, not demons, not even Satan. He is too caring to abandon me. He is too powerful to let me fail. He is too loving to leave me to the devil. To think that the God of ages, Yahweh, the great I am, the Messiah, Adonai, Emmanuel, the Prince of Peace, is for me, how epic indeed. Thank you.
Y'all, I just have a couple of notes. I'm not going to keep you for super long. Okay, so 2 things. Can you stand that? The first thing is 25 years is like an entire generation, right? And that has been Dr. Meek, Sandy, like not just keeping this program alive, but like being this program, right? Like not only did you start the senior reading, oh, by the way, wasn't the roof also detached one time?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You guys came in here and the roof was gone? Yeah. Sinkholes, tornadoes,
Yes.
COVID. Just keep going. We keep going. I wanted to make sure everyone understood she's just stepping down from being, she's not retiring yet, in case you were, like me, having a heart attack. But I think it is a really good time to just say thank you to Sandy for doing this, for making us. You're the reason I think a lot of us are here. A student just today in the other room was like, Dr. Meek, you're the reason I'm a writer. That was today, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I don't know, time's weird. But that is not unusual. You're the reason I'm here. You fought tirelessly for the position that I'm in, and Dr. Booker. You are a big reason why Sam Evans is coming. You started our prose series, so we invite cool writers like my friend Lena and Kim Garza, Tara Stillings-Whitehead. You started that with your own money, which I don't know if did you guys know that? No. Yeah, with your own money. So I just want to say a huge thanks. And also, this is a very tough act to follow. I need everyone to lower their expectations drastically, please. The second thing I want to say is I want to say thank you to you guys. We also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for us. I know we have probably made an impression for good or for ill, but you also made an impression on us. Like you give us purpose, you give us joy. Hearing something like that, a student saying, you're the reason I'm a writer, is, I don't think you can understand the energy. It's like heroin, but better. Just so we're clear. That's not the thing I know. And I just want to say thank you for being here. Parents, thank you for sending me here, for trusting us. And I want to say, please, please, please tell us your next chapter. Like, we want to know where your book is headed. Send us emails, tweet at us, Instagram. I don't know if you guys know what letters are. Which handwrite them. I know, the stamp, you know what a stamp is? It goes, it's like, you like lick it, maybe, I don't know. I haven't used a stamp in so long. Anyway, you put it in the top right, and then you seal the envelope.
I'll Google it later.
Google it, yeah. I'm just giving you options. If there are carrier pigeons around, if you just want to leave, like, I don't know, like a sack of flour with a note in it. They used to do that. We just want to know. It gives us, again, so much joy to know that you are willing to keep us informed about where you are going. And we want to know. Oh, one more Sandy thing. So I asked Sandy, hey, are you still in touch with the students from that senior reading? What do you think her answer is?
Yes.
Not just yes. She said all of them.
Wow.
She is still in touch with all of them and listed off what they're doing now. So just, Sandy, you're amazing. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much. And I hope you guys have a great night. Good luck with finals. Good luck with graduation. If you want me to like yell at you in another language, let me know. I did that a lot last year. And everyone else, thank you. Have a good night. This was great.